ABSL Summit. Beyond Tomorrow. Building a Sustainable Future.
Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, the next very inspirational speech is ahead of us. And at the beginning, let me tell you something. I once read that the most powerful weapon in the world is not a nuclear bomb, it's a word. And that's true. We can do a lot with words. We can make people happy, and we can unfortunately kill them also. And how to build integration and inclusion through the power of language. Joanna Gierak-Onoszko, Polish journalist and writer, will give us the answer, I hope. The stage is yours, Joanna.
Dzięki. Okay. Hello, dear guests. I'm beyond thrilled and super happy to be with you today, especially as I know that everybody's waiting for their lunches. So I'm really thankful that you're lending your time as we are wrapping up the 3 days ABSL Summit. That's been a busy time of making new friendships, making new friends, and greeting the old ones, and sharing experiences, stories, and narratives. Today we will tell a few words about how diversity and inclusion can help you tell your own stories and elevate the stories of your companies, of your organizations, of your communities. But before we move to that, I was wondering whether you had a chance to go to the seaside. Did any of you visit the beach? Okay, because it's on the beach where you can truly feel the power and the spirit of TRICITY, Gdańsk, Sopot, and Gdynia, that is built on resilience, solidarity, and freedom. But we also have another gem here in TRICITY, that is amber. And today I'm sporting those beautiful earrings made of amber with pride, because they are a bit more than just piece of my jewelry. They are a piece of my identity. Back in the day, when I was moving to Canada, I was wondering what kind of story I want to share with Canadians. How do I present myself? What do I tell them about my heritage, about my ideas, about who I am? And those earrings help me navigate the story. So whenever a fellow student or a soccer mom asked me, "Oh, where did you get those?" I would tell them about the beautiful amber born in the cold waters of the Baltic Sea, and about Gdańsk, the proud city I used to call home. I was wondering, have any of you read The Handmaid's Tale, or maybe seen the series on Hulu? I don't know if you're familiar with the story. Opowieści podręczne, The Handmaid's Tale, was written by Margaret Atwood, a Canadian author. And when I was living in Toronto, I used to come across many women wearing all those long red gowns and saying, "Under his eye," or "We've been sent good weather," because it was my neighborhood that was chosen as a location for the series. So The Handmaid's Tale is a very personal, very local story for me. But at the same time, it's a story that has circulated the world. People across the globe are touched in their hearts and in their minds by this capturing, powerful story. It's a story of oppression and resilience, hatred and love, dominance and sisterhood. It's a story that connects us very powerfully. In fact, Margaret Atwood used to say that it is stories that connect us. They build bridges among us. They make the conversation possible. And I guess that now you would expect me to say that language and words are the most powerful tool we have. But that would be the most obvious and the most boring cliché ever. So before we move to language, I would like to ask you about diversity. Because here, as we sit at the ABSL Summit, we make a very diverse community here, a very diverse group. And what comes to your mind when you think about diversity? Is it sexual orientation? Is it gender? Well, there's so much more to it. I'm just curious about your image of diversity? What makes us diverse? Anyone? Culture, thank you. What else? What else makes us diverse here? Sorry? Abilities, ideas, and it's age, and it's health issues. It's our take on vaccines. It's our fertility. It's our eating habits and drinking habits. It's so much more than just belonging to one group. And in fact, all of us here belong to a minority. Every one of us has had a battle in their lives. So using an inclusive language that makes everybody feel welcome and respected is a tool that works for all of us. So what is an inclusive language? We've heard so many definitions during the great debates, the Oxford debate, about inclusion, diversity, and the sense of belonging. But from a corporate point of view, diversity and inclusion is a way to put your message and make it heard among the biggest possible audience. I'm not only a writer, I'm also a corporate communications expert, and I always tell my clients that communications is not about what you say. It's all about what is being heard, what is being received. So, when you use your inclusive and welcoming language, you can be sure that many people are included in the conversation. They're part of the conversation, but it's not an easy way. We usually struggle, and we usually fail. And mastering an inclusive language is just like education. You can start it, but you will never finish it. And there's one thing for sure, that we will be failing and constantly hurting other people. Most of the time, not intentionally. Most of the time, we would rely on our biases and assumptions, and we will make other people hurt. But this is no excuse for not trying, not making the next move. So maybe let's discuss briefly the main principles and then examples of the inclusive language. So the first principle is put the person in the center of your narrative. So we don't write about disabled people. We write about people having a disability. We are not having diabetic colleagues or friends. We have friends with diabetes. We are not bearing babies with birth defects, because babies are not machines. They are just born with some congenital diseases. So we don't say a female engineer, just like we don't say a male engineer either, right? And we would not say a male nurse, because we don't say a female nurse either. The second universal phrase is that we should put accent on mental health. I've heard a lot of words during the ABSL summit here, a lot of conversations about the importance of well-being and mental health in the organizations, in our companies, at our homes. Even here, in this very room, many of us are struggling with their personal issues and with our mental health and well-being. So it's very often that we call our colleagues mad, crazy, lunatic, schizo, and it's time we just stop. Okay, so these are the guiding principles. What about the examples? We'll use an alphabet list and try to see how we can exchange word with the word. We would not say bossy describing a woman. We would rather say that a woman is direct. We would not rather use a Christian name, because not everybody in your companies, in your organization is Christian. We would rather say first name or given name. Okay, and when did you last address your team as guys? I did it last week. I keep on failing all the time. Do you use guys when referring to your colleagues in your team? Okay, it's not a derogatory word, but it makes some women in the room feel as if they are not that welcome. And male is the preferred gender in the company, which usually is not. And the same, the word females. It's very similar, well, it works well if you're describing an animal or a plant, but it's not a good fit when you're referring to your colleagues or friends. Or manpower or man-made. Today we would rather say that something is artificial or synthetic, not man-made. And we would refer to humanity and workforce, not manpower anymore. Then mental disability. It suggests that somebody that's fighting or that's having a mental health problem is not able to perform their work, which is not true because we have many friends, colleagues, and co-workers in your companies that are having mental issues, and yet they are perfect fits in your teams. Then spokesman. I'm not a spokesman for my company, I'm a spokesperson. And in general, in the inclusive language, we avoid phrases that refer to victimhood. So we're not saying that somebody is suffering from cancer. They are just people living with cancer. We say that we have a friend that has a disability, but is not a disabled person. I must say that we are all biased in a way, and we all have assumptions. And when we hurt people via our language, the way we speak, most of the time we do it not intentionally. Yet we might be a bit more careful and a bit more mindful. And this is an experience to imagine ourselves as somebody else. This is a try on imagining somebody else's experience. Well, I know that many of the shared services centers employ people that were not born in Poland. Many of them come from Ukraine or Belarus. And it might seem to be a minute detail, but sometimes it's a matter of identity, dignity, and respect. It's very important if you say that you employ people coming from the Ukraine or Ukraine. In Polish, we would say w Ukrainie or na Ukrainie. It's the same with spelling of Kiev or Kyiv. And although it might seem a small thing for you, it does matter for people born in Ukraine. Changing personal habits is a struggle, and we would often fail. I practiced 3 times not to say ladies and gentlemen at the beginning of the speech, because it's not the way we address people anymore. I don't know if you've seen Chair, a short series screening now on Netflix. Has any of you seen the Chair? Okay, so it's capturing a witty story of an Asian American becoming a chair of English literature department. She's a single mother and she has so many struggles, but she works in a community that is language sensitive. And they said no, they pay attention to the language and want to make it more and more inclusive. So they just ditched ladies and gentlemen, because none of us feel comfortable with this. Many women feel that this is patronizing. We would all find ourselves in situations when we would hurt somebody, when we would be a bit offensive, when we will unnecessarily hurt somebody else's feelings. But it shouldn't make us stop. I think that diversity is just like dancing. It's 1 step forward and 2 steps back, and you keep on failing. Like this summer, I work for the biggest law firm in Poland, and I run comms there. And each summer we celebrate the success of our courageous and hardworking female and male colleagues that have passed the bar exam and are becoming established, fully licensed lawyers. And we usually post about it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And it's my personal mission to write prawniczki and prawnicy, like female and male lawyers, every time I have the chance. And this year, this summer, I took some vacations, and a colleague in my team stepped in, and he came across this policy of using an inclusive, gender-sensitive language. And he kept on writing prawnicy, 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 lawyers, lawyers, lawyers. And I was not happy about it, but what did we do? Nothing. We just moved on, because as Canadians say, we can always do better next time. Sometimes we say diversity and inclusion in one breath, but they're just very separate things. They're completely separate things. We have already learned that diversity is coming together, is celebrating the different backgrounds, different identities, different cultures, languages, and the places we were born into. So diversity is like a party. Everybody is welcome. While inclusion is being given a seat at the table, is being asked to dance. It's very easy to speak about diversity, but it's extremely difficult to champion and embrace inclusion, because that means sharing power, and nobody wants to do that. Well, here in this room, you're a group of people that is both very diverse and very privileged. We are all privileged to have good jobs, to have access to knowledge, know-how, and network that makes our jobs interesting and our lives more fun. But with the privilege, there always comes responsibility. And we are not using it for ourselves, for our own sake, but for those that are not in this room. I mean, for the next generation to come. Today, the world is burning. We are facing a climate crisis. We are facing a crisis in terms of politics, economy, health issues, and there is so much we can still do. And during the beginning session, on the very first day of the summit, Bruno Bartkiewicz said that the business, something along the lines that the business of business is to provide a good customer experience. To wrap up the summit, I would say that today, the business of business is to provide safe spaces. We are living in challenging times, and you have both the opportunity, the privilege, and the imperative to provide safe spaces, to provide inclusive, open, and safe workplaces, to exert pressure and make your part of the world, your community, your organizations, places where everybody can be true themselves. We can talk about reaching our full potential, but it's mostly about creating safe spaces where people can feel like they belong, like they have something to say, where people know that they can be heard, respected, and safe. So in times of political and ethical unrest, as the power shifts both in Europe and throughout the world, it's business, it's your companies that provide safe havens for exchanging ideas, fostering dialogue, and peaceful coexistence. Today I can wear my amber earrings with pride, and I can hold my head high and tell you all about my identity, where I came from and where I'm headed. But not everybody is that lucky. Do bear in mind that today we are meeting in Gdańsk. It's a city with more than 1,000 years of super complicated history. But it's also a place that is called the cradle of solidarity. It's a place where liberty, freedom lives. It's a place where we can have this floor, this room, to speak openly, freely, exchange our ideas, our stories, and our experiences. May we all have those safe havens, and may we all create them. Thank you very much.
resilience, maturity, talents, growth, innovation. The change made us stronger. This all made us sustainable. ABSL Summit. Beyond tomorrow. Building a sustainable future.